Hey, excellent. It is finally 4 o'clock on Thursday. I have been waiting for this for quite a little while. Thank you all so much for coming out. It is awesome to see this giant cavernous room sparsely populated with folks. My name is Jamie Stark. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft Teams organization, and this is your BRK3113, the deep dive into the administration portal for Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. As I said, my name is Jamie. I tweet sporadically at No More Phones, and for those of you that haven't seen me around and you think that this is an interesting session, there is a disturbing amount of data that is unfortunately carrying such wonderful things from my sordid marketing past as software-defined networking with Microsoft Link 2013 and planning voice features for Link 2010. I say this is your BRK3113 because it is yours. You have the opportunity to give us feedback, not just on this session, not just on other sessions that you go to here at Ignite, but about the whole conference all up. Unfortunately, speakers, we don't have the facility to be able to control things like the comfort of the chairs, the volume of the music beforehand, or the temperature of the room, but especially when it comes to content, especially when it comes to your speakers, please don't hesitate. Fill out all the evals. As a speaker, I read them and I really do think through the manner in which I can make my presentations more interesting, especially at 4 o'clock on the second to the last day of a giant conference when we're all tired and oh my goodness, the party is coming up soon. So what we're gonna do is go through lots of fun stuff with respect to the new admin center. There's a little bit of fun ancient history we've got to talk to. We have an opportunity to look through the goals that we have kind of all up for the admin center to give you a sense of where we're going with this, what we're trying to accomplish. I'm going to talk about the infrastructure, how we built it, why you should trust it, that sort of stuff. And then it's a lot about features. It's a lot about the different capabilities that we've lit up in the admin center. First, kind of starting about policies and settings and how those apply to users and teams. We're going to talk about some of the reporting capabilities. RBAC is now a thing, the role-based admin control. So we're going to talk about, yeah, I know, right? This is so cool. It's taken a little while, but it's awesome. And so we're going to talk about that. And then some new stuff that is if not on the precipice of coming out, like Teams lifecycle management, things that are in our kind of short-term planning horizon, like app policy. If we have a little bit of time, I'll get into the roadmap and I'll show you a little bit of what our North Star architecture looks like. But one of the things that I wanted to start off with was this tweet. I'll pause for a moment and let you to read it. This is from Matt Landis. He is one of our MVPs and he's awesome, and I still vividly remember reading this tweet and having recently assumed the responsibility of a website that deals a lot with the user interface and the user experience, and I was reading this and going, oh, tut, tut, tut. I can't imagine those engineers, like, what are they doing with their random use of colors, icons, navigation styles, and progress indicators? And then I saw the picture that he posted along with that tweet and went, oh, goodness. I'm responsible for all of these things. The one in the center there is the legacy admin portal. The one on the right is the preview version of call analytics. And I went, oh, yeah, actually, that's my bad. We have to take care of that, and I'm kind of responsible for that. And in fact, that is the goal that we have for the new admin center. In the ancient history, we got into a habit as a product organization of having a requirement for some new set of services or reports or capabilities that required some web interface. And so we made one because it's, that's the most expedient way to do it in a lot of ways. And then we made another, and then we made another, and then we made another, and we ended up with LAC and with Call Analytics Portal and CQD. And then Teams, of course, when Teams first came out, it didn't have its own management experience. Its management experience was integrated into the Office 365 Admin Center, which was operable, but unfortunately didn't provide the capability to have, for example, user level policy. All of the switches there, you can imagine, is kind of big Fisher-Price level switches, where I could turn on and turn off stuff at a tenant level, but I didn't have the opportunity to say, oh, lawyers, you're going to have a meeting experience like X, and devs, you're going to have a meeting experience by Y. And it just so happens that lots and lots of enterprises think this is pretty critical to be able to customize the experience of Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business appropriate to their organization. And so our goal is to bring all of these properties together and not just to have them as links on a web page, but to really rethink the fundamental way that you want to complete entire scenarios using the admin center. Really, being thoughtful about, if I'm thinking about a user, maybe I want to go and look at their quality, maybe then I want to go and see what's going on with their meeting settings, and then I'm going to want to transition into thinking about users in that entire location and looking at quality at that level. So it was really important for us not just to glom all this stuff together, but to really rethink the manner in which folks transited through the website and to make sure that our scenarios really thoughtfully lit up end to end. And so that's what we've done. When Ori and I were out here last year, we didn't have a thing. We had a vision, we had some great design mocks, we had some cool ideas. Now the thing is live. And so the Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center, super easy URL to remember, admin.teams.microsoft.com. And we are consolidating all of these various administration scenarios down into this single location. And, again, it's our passion is around making sure that this is incredibly usable, incredibly familiar, and incredibly powerful for IT pros across organizational boundaries and across organizational sizes and types and everything else. One of the other kind of key precepts we have as well is that we're not going to force you down the path of using the website, right? We really do think about having a reciprocal capability, that the website is one tool that allows you to do stuff, and you can also do the same stuff in PowerShell. You can also do the same stuff in Graph. You can also do the same stuff programmatically, right? And so we always are thinking about ensuring, if we do this work on the website, how is that going to affect the PowerShell experience? Or if we do this work in Graph, how is it going to affect the website? With a goal of having as much as possible that reciprocal functionality. And then, of course, we constantly want to add new stuff. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on kind of how we built the thing and what it looks like. This is as much as I can a tribute to the awesome set of devs that we have back in Redmond who are still grinding away at our next release that's due out in early October. We ship about every month. It's a single page application. It's built in React. For those of you that aren't familiar, that's a web framework. You can get some more information there on reactjs.org. We've spent a bunch of time to make sure that our code pipeline is super fast and super reliable. So we have the opportunity to ship updates to this product very, very quickly. If something goes sideways, if we need to, address a bug really quick or whatever, we have the opportunity to iterate on this, not only fast, but in a way that's safe and that we feel comfortable about exercising that muscle. Automatically, there's a bunch of testing that happens. There's end-to-end testing. We code specific unit tests. There are constant health checks that are happening to make sure that a lot of the fundamental services that we rely on are up and are happy and have appropriate response times. One of the things that may be slightly disconcerting from an end user perspective is that a lot of the stuff that I'm going to show may not look exactly the same as the experience that you have should you bring up the portal on your phone or browser while you're sitting here. And the reason that that's the case is that every element within the website is customizable. We call it flighting. And so we will specifically flight various features at various times appropriate to, for example, if we want to have folks go and test out the Teams lifecycle capability, well, we can flight just that set of functionality just for a specific group of customers. And so what you're going to see in my demos is going to look different, and that's intentional. That's product working as designed. Responsive, I'm going to show this in a little bit, but the way the website is built is that it will work across all different kinds of browsers and all different kinds of form factors, regardless of whether you're looking at it on your phone, whether you're looking at it on a tablet, or a nice big, fancy PC like I've got. And then nearly every transaction and click that happens within the site, we instrument to try to understand how folks are using it and to try to make it better and to try to stay on top of things like response time issues and geographic based issues. And then finally, there's 40 supported languages. I know this is one of those things about presenting at Ignite and prior to that Tech Ed, that folks are really interested in what languages are supported. And so yes, these are actually the languages that are supported because I pulled them from the code. And we're pretty proud of this, right? I briefly considered doing one of my demos in Arabic, but the whole right to left thing was a little rough. I gotta be honest. But hey, we're doing a lot here to make sure that this product is consumable by everybody in their native language. And so if you are tasked as the IT professional for describing the capability and describing the architecture of the Teams Admin Center, here is a level 100 version, right? Level 100 being kind of basic, 200 being about features, 300 being about architecture, 400 being about code. This is your level 100 version. Teams Admin Center, you got your nice fancy workstation on your desk. That goes and that talks to Microsoft Teams and Office 365. And then as a result of your configuration, as a result of you doing the changes within the website to be able to have a different messaging policy or meeting policy or Teams upgrade policy, then your users will get a different experience, as shown by the very fancy different colors on your users' screens. The architecture actually looks like this. So we own everything in that center dark blue box. When you first come into the website, you're going to hit the Azure Front Door Anycast ring that we use for Skype. That determines where physically you're located in the world. And then it's going to move you to one of 3 different data centers: Europe, Asia, North America. Within those data centers, we have redundant deployments. So should one of those deployments go down or go sideways, and the other one can go and stand up for it, they're geo-redundant within that region, right? So I think in Europe, one's in Netherlands and one's in Ireland. Same with Asia, same with North America. That's our Bootstrap service. So that service is just designed to come up and get operational super duper quick. And then it will go out to the Azure Content Delivery Network, or CDN, to go and actually grab the website itself, to actually grab the single page application. Should the CDN go sideways, we've got a static blob store. Of course, the blob store is a little bit slower. The CDN's kind of handy because it's everywhere. And then that component, that admin portal UI component, not only feeds the website up to the Bootstrap service, it also then goes to the variety of backends that are actually setting the configuration elements and policies and getting information that you're interested in. And so this is a short list. We go and we actually do sit on top of PowerShell. So the PowerShell web service we sit on top of. So literally the same PowerShell that you would run in your tenant, the admin portal is running a version of that as well, as it's wrapped in a web call. We have an API to be able to get all of our reporting data, including call analytics information. Obviously, we're talking Azure Active Directory to get information about the users. And then more and more, we hit graph, especially in the cases around specific Teams type functionality, like our Teams lifecycle stuff is almost completely based on graph. And then, in addition to that, all of those transactions and all that stuff that the admin portal UI is doing, we dump into a telemetry data store, and then we can get a sense of what's going on by people's actual usage of the site. So I'm exactly 15 minutes in. You have been very patient so far. So we might as well take a quick look at what the product looks like. I've got 2 different tenants, 3 different topologies, and 3 different endpoints that I'm hitting. So I'm going to do my best not to get them mixed up. I've got a little cheat sheet up there. So this is what the admin portal looks like. On the left is our navigation. So this is our kind of left nav that has the top level elements of all the different pieces of the product. And so there are some elements in here that are not stood up today, but that will be in the future. For example, under devices, in the future we'll have device management. Under voice, we'll have things like being able to do your porting requests or being able to acquire phone numbers. In the center is kind of in the initial load is our dashboard. Each one of those cards provides some information about what's going on within your organization. We show a little bit of information about the pending Teams upgrade and provide some information out for admins to be able to take advantage of that and put that right front and center. Have a user search capability. And then way up at the top is the standard Office 365 bar and waffle that everyone's familiar with. But the thing that I wanted to show you is when I go and I minimize that, it looks significantly different, right? This is approximately what the site would look like on your mobile browser. And so you notice there's a bunch of thoughtful stuff that we've done. Instead of that waffle going away, now my nav is right there, but it's hidden. And so it's easy for me to be able to use that on my mobile device. When I go over to, let's click on users. When I go over to users, like this is normally what the page looks like. I've got a description, I've got a title, I've got some navigation. Up here at the top, you can see this is dashboard/users. That's kind of a breadcrumb trail that I can go and I can follow around the site. But then when I go and I shrink that down, you can see, the description's hidden, which makes sense. If I'm a mobile, I'll scroll through some description. I know what this is, but if I need it, no big deal. I've got it right there. For search, we take over that whole top part. Right, so I could just click on that search button, I could bang in somebody's name, and then I can execute that query. And just as I kind of unfurl it, you'll notice, okay, now once it gets to a certain resolution, now I've got enough space where it makes sense to have that left nav show up, but it's going to be hidden. If I want, I can go and I can open that up fully. And then obviously when I go and I bring it out even more so into its full size. Oh yeah, of course. When I've got this minimized, then I could just use the mouse over to go and hit whatever particular area of the site that I need, right? So this is what we mean by responsive. It's responsive to the resolution size that's being reported back to the browser. And so no matter how you're accessing the site, you're getting a really great experience by it. And I just think that's a fantastic set of work that we've done within our engineering organization to make sure that no matter how you're accessing the admin center, you're getting a great experience as a result. So one thing about my demos is that in order to prevent the demos from failing, I took screenshots of all of them, and they're in the deck. And I told the Silver Fox folks to keep them in the deck should you want to reference them for later. And so I just wanted to share this little bit of information. Maybe you already know this, but we had a fun conversation with my colleagues. And I was a little strident about this point, that there is only a single proper way to take screenshots, and every other way is fundamentally flawed. And so what's the best way to take screenshots? Anyone? No, it's to use OneNote. Because with OneNote, I have one keyboard command that brings up a selection. I select the area and bam, it's in my clipboard, and I go and I paste that into my destination. So I would not have had the ability to very quickly crank through all of the screenshots that are in this deck without this wonderful facility within OneNote. And if you haven't had the opportunity to do it, and you have been wallowing away in the world of using things like Snipping Tool or Alt Print Screen, from that helpful comment from the audience, I suggest that you try OneNote because it's awesome. So a little bit about the features. This is kind of the, for lack of a better term, the single slide that goes through all the different stuff that we have going on with the modern portal. So the dashboard is fundamentally a framework, and so that dashboard is going to, as we have more and more widgets or cards that are on that dashboard screen, we're going to allow the ability for folks to customize that. Today, it's a static representation because we only have a handful of dashboards on there. And the ones we've got are around Teams Upgrade, some great links to documentation, and then a user search capability that's right in front. So if you need to go and bomb into a user and see what's going on, you can do so very quickly. A user management facility and an awesome set of capabilities there that allows me to search, to filter, and to customize the look of my users table, because we know from research that this is a place where a lot of admins end up spending a bunch of time. I mentioned this before, that back in the day with Microsoft Teams, we didn't have the facility for a really modern, robust policy management, right? Instead of having a policy kind of framework, we had the ability just to turn on and off features at a tenant level. So this policy management allows us to not only have operations at a tenant level, but also operations down at an atomic user level. And we have that built out today for messaging, for meetings, and for live events. Role-based administration comes built in now with 4 different user profiles, and we'll talk about that in a little bit on how those profiles are different, where are the different cases you'll use them, and I'll get a chance to demonstrate those. When you are ready to move a Skype for Business organization and upgrade them to Teams, then we have all the controls for you to be able to take advantage of that directly from within the portal. So you can choose to do that in PowerShell again, or you could choose to do that within the admin portal. There are some features that we have that are configured at a tenant level because that makes sense. We call those org-wide settings. And so there are some org-wide settings that apply to the functionality of clients, the functionality of guest users, and external access. Audio conferencing has been a set of capabilities that we've had out for a while now, and that has both user and tenant level configuration for all the audio conferencing facility. It's important to note, though, that we are supporting only the Microsoft audio conferencing facility and not the third-party ACP at this time. We're available in all sorts of different Office 365 environments. That little asterisk is, there are some environments that we're not available in, but all the mainline Office 365 setups, all of the regional data centers and GCC were all deployed in. And then finally, the reason that Teams Lifecycle is at the very bottom is that while we have talked about Teams Lifecycle and the facility to manage teams and channels and members and owners, that isn't something that is generally available today. We expect for that to be released very shortly, as I said, probably in early October. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking through policies and settings, because I find in working with customers that this can be a little confusing and a little capricious. That it seems in some ways random why Microsoft says, oh, this particular set of controls we embed in a policy, and this particular set of controls we embed in a setting, and what that means. So policies are fundamentally a collection of different configuration elements. So when I think about meeting policy deals with the way that folks engage in meetings and the capabilities that are offered in Microsoft Teams. Again, we generally group these by modality, so while there's a meeting policy, there's also a messaging policy. In the future, there'll be a voice policy. And policies can operate either on a per user basis. I can assign a user a specific policy instance, or I could have that be per tenant. If a user is not assigned a particular policy instance, then they are going to be held to the standard and held to the policy that operates at a tenant level. We definitely know that having per group policy makes sense. That is definitely on our backlog, and there's definitely some fun issues for us to figure out there. For example, I could be a member of the group that is engineering. I could also be the member of the group that is people who work in the building called Lincoln Square. And if we assign a meeting policy to the people that work in Lincoln Square, and then we assign a different meeting policy to the people that are in engineering, what should we do? So those types of things are what we're thinking around. Those types of scenarios and how we resolve those is what's going into our work around per group policy. But today you can have it be on a per user basis or on a per tenant basis. If you need to set a policy to a whole bunch of users, that is the set of capability that we're working on. Or, of course, you can write it in PowerShell, do a loop, and get it all done. For settings similarly are a collection of configuration elements. Similarly, they're grouped together by modality. We try to make this as logical as possible. So stuff that deals with guests ends up in the guest bucket. Stuff that deals with Teams Upgrade ends up in the Teams Upgrade bucket. And this can include cases where you have multiple instances of something. So I could have multiple instances of a conference bridge, and I have settings on those instances of conference bridge. Or I could have settings on multiple instances of my team, or I could have settings on multiple instances of voice applications. And so the reasoning behind why we choose policies versus settings really is a function of the feature. And that is a place where we in the IT Pro team, we work very closely with our colleagues who are thinking very deeply about the feature kind of end to end. And we work with them and think about, well, okay, what sort of IT Pro controls are you considering for this? And there are a few factors that go into this decision, right? There are technical factors, like maybe there's a fundamental protocol limitation in the way that we can control some of this capability. Maybe there's a practical consideration that for us to build out a policy model for a particular set of functionality would be crazy hard to do and crazy expensive. Maybe there's some business reasons that having that policy model for a particular set of capabilities actually ends up being a more complex user experience, right? We're trying to think about this product spanning not just the enterprise class, but also down into SMB as well. And so we want to be able to ensure that you don't have to be some crazy deep practitioner to be able to get value out of the admin portal. And then finally, it could be temporal. It could be that, hey, from a prioritization perspective, we're going to work on X, and then after that, we're going to work on Y, and then after that, we're going to work on Z, and then maybe Z is the policy piece. And we want to start off with doing settings to kind of see where customers are going to fit in this and if it makes sense. But regardless, the feedback from you that we hear at shows like this, that we get on user voice, that we see on Twitter, is key for us to help adjudicate some of these different factors. And so don't ever hesitate to give us that feedback, because it really is valuable and it is something that we care very deeply about receiving. So I'm just going to talk pretty quick through the combinatorial mix here across settings and policies for 3 different types of elements. And so these configured entities are tenants, our users, and then our teams. In the future, maybe we'll include groups into this mix as well as we get that functionality built out. But it's the combination of either settings or policies, and then either the tenant, the user, or the team that really defines the scope of capability that you as an IT Pro can perform with respect to the product. And so when I look at tenant settings, Again, these are configuration elements that impact the entire organization because it's impacting my entire tenant. And so my dial-in conferencing telephone numbers is a great example. You don't have a case where each human within your organization has a different set of dial-in conferencing numbers. We probably don't have that many numbers broadly in the world to be able to support that. And so audio conferencing is shared across your tenant. Guest access, same sort of thing. We don't individually policy individual guest users that come into your tenant. Instead, we say all guests are going to operate like blah when it comes to working in your organization. With respect to user settings, these are configuration elements that impact a particular user. So what's the user's default audio conferencing number? Because I'm based out of Bellevue, I should have a number that's in the 425 area code. My colleague who's based in Dubai wouldn't have a 425 area code for their default dial-in number. That would be kind of silly. They would have a local Dubai phone number. That's a setting that's appropriate for me as a user. Settings for Teams, this is something that we've just now brought in the new Teams lifecycle capability. These are configuration elements that impact a team. So how the capability to add channels, users' capabilities, to be able to allow users within the team to be able to add channels, to be able to add apps, to be able to add tabs. And we'll definitely spend some time on this and look through it. When I switch over to policies, again, policies can operate at a tenant level and at a user level. So these are configuration elements. They impact the entire org. When a user does not have a particular instance of a policy assigned, then we're going to use that tenant level policy. And so there are tenant level policies for messaging, for meetings, and for live events that are built into the product today. We're going to have many, many more policies as we continue on in the life cycle of this product. Similarly, if I want to apply a policy to a user, same thing, messaging, meetings, live events. And I can grant that policy to that particular user, or I could take a whole array of users, throw them into 4 or 5 lines of carefully constructed PowerShell, iterate through that, and grant those particular per user policies to those users. And then finally, one of the areas that we're looking into is policies with teams. We have settings for teams, but is there a need for us to be able to create a policy model for a team? This is one of the things that's on the backlog that we're looking into. And so maybe we're going to grow to a place where there are so many potential settings for a team that I would want to abstract that out into a policy and be able to say, oh, you know what, actually, I want to have all the teams that this side of the company operates with to have a configuration like this. I want to have all the teams that operate on that side of the company to have a different model. And instead of managing that on a set of settings, I can create a policy for that. This is something that we're looking into. And so with that, what we have within the product, for users, I can assign these policies. I can look at information on their calls and their meetings because we've integrated in the capabilities for call analytics. And so when I'm looking at a user object, I can see not only that user's kind of static information, I can also see their config, and I can also see the actions that they've done, the media events that they've done within the product. I've mentioned the different policy options there, mentioned a few of the different settings around audio conferencing, having per tenant level settings and per team level settings. So let's check it out. Awesome. So I'm here on my users page. One of the really fun things that we've done within this is that you'll notice there's 3 columns that I've got configured right here: display name, location, and what policies these particular users have been assigned. But I do have the ability to see a lot more information. And so this is the set of customization that we have for columns within that table. As a general design precept, we're looking to do this for any table that you see within the website. The ability to customize specifically what information you want to see, and then keep that information resident, so that way when you go and log back into the portal, you'll have the ability, you'll see the same configuration. And so here, maybe I want to see their username and whether or not they have audio conferencing. And so now when I've done that, now we've got all that information. Now it's just a different view of the user experience to be able to take advantage of that. Of course, I can search, see if I can find my buddy Paul here. When we're doing these searches, we're actually executing a backend query to be able to determine, oh, is this user located within this tenant or not? And you see, yep, Paul's located within this tenant. He's based in the U.S., doesn't have any policies assigned to him as a per user basis, but he's, of course, subject to tenant level policy. But one of the really kind of cool, powerful things that we've built into this product is the ability to do very robust filtering. So for example, I can filter on the meeting policy, and these are all the different meeting policies that we have created within this tenant. And so this was the marketing demo tenant that they used for Lori's keynote earlier. So you see the Portland Hospital and the Seattle Hospital policies. So let's just see who's assigned the Teams meeting policy for, oh, hey, it's me. Perfect. And then, of course, I can, if I want, I can stack up even more, I can stack up even more features on that as well. So let's see if does Portland have a few more people? Okay, just Emily. But I could stack up more and more, God darn it, I keep on missing that. I can stack up more and more requirements onto here. So if I want, I can make a very complex construction here to be able to get the users back that I need, that I want to be able to do operations on. And so this filtering capability is extremely powerful. Then when I get into a particular user, let's go ahead and let's see what Emily's up to here. Oh, Emily even has calls, sweet. So this is the user's detail page. I see the user information here. I've got the ability to send them a call or an IM or a mail directly from within this experience. I get a quick view of their quality and activity information. This is also data that we're pulling from the Call Analytics API. So the Call Analytics product that was in preview now is directly integrated into the new admin portal. So I get this kind of quick view of, hey, what's their call quality been like? What's their activity been like? And then down the bottom, I've got lots of information about how this particular user is configured. So I see their audio conferencing information here on the upper right. See that they're configured for audio conferencing. They're using a dynamic conference ID. If I wanted to, I can go and I can start changing around their audio conferencing information. Let's say they're going to move to Sydney tomorrow, go and kind of blow up their configuration and say, no, maybe they can't do dial out. And poof, now I've got them configured for their default information for conferencing now going off to Sydney. Super straightforward, super easy to be able to execute this stuff. Same thing for assigned policies. Down here below, you see all the per user policies that this user has been assigned. This is perfect. I randomly grab this user and look at all these wonderful per user policies they have assigned. So they're not allowed to use live events because they have the no live events policy. For the meetings messaging, they have Portland respectively. You'll see down below there Teams app policy and app permission policy. I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. That's a feature that we're going to have coming out in a little bit later on in the year. They snuck in a little bit in the configuration of my demo tenant here, but that's okay. Happy to have them on board. And one of the things you'll notice is that these are actually links. And so we always want to have a scenario where there's no place where I get stuck in the experience, right? So I don't, if I'm in the users page, I don't have to do a thing where I'm like, oh, I want to go see more about their messaging policy, and then go over to messaging policy, search for this particular one, and then go and open it. No, I could just go and straight click right into checking out what's up with this particular messaging policy. And then here's what's up with messaging policies. So these are all the different sets of capabilities that the messaging team wanted to be available, and that we as the IT Pro team advocated to be available with respect to controlling messaging. So maybe their use of Jiffies has been a little inappropriate. And so we maybe want to move them from the moderate Jiffy content to the strict Jiffy content. And then poof, I execute that. And look at what it did, is it brought me back to my users page. We know the path that you took to get to this transaction, to get to that place. And so instead of popping you back somewhere random, like the list of all the policies in the tenant, we wanted to pop you back to where you were, which makes sense. But of course, if I want, I can go and I can check out, these are all the messaging policies that are configured in this tenant. And if I want as well, I can also customize this view, although with this view, it is much more streamlined. All these tables, of course, are going to have the ability for us to sort in different ways. And then the one that's marked super special here, this global org-wide default, does what it says it does. This is the default that covers the entire organization should your user not have a particular per user policy assigned. And so maybe this is the very restrictive policy that you want to put into place, and then you add more permissive policies on a per user basis on top of that. Maybe you want to do something opposite. Regardless, this choice is yours, and you have the ability to operate at both levels. Couple other things for us to do on this quick little walkthrough here in this overview. I mentioned guest settings a couple times. So for configuring guest access, you want to be able to throttle different capabilities that folks have with guests. Maybe you don't want to allow them to use video. You could turn that off. Maybe you don't want them to edit messages that they send. I don't really think this one's particularly fair, but I'm sure there's a use case for it. I take advantage of the edit message and delete message within Teams quite frequently, and I would be horrified to not have that facility. And then Teams Upgrade. You know, there are 4 different sessions that are set up here at Ignite that talk about different aspects of Teams Upgrade. And so there's a lot more to learn there. The one thing I will call out, though, is that these are the different kind of interop modes or coexistence modes that are currently set up within the product. The Teams only one is on the precipice of being released generally. There are a couple kind of long tail end-to-end scenarios that we still need to figure out. We thought it was going to be able to come out this week. We think it's going to be a little while longer. So for many of you, you're not going to see Teams only within your tenant. But as we come out with more and more of these coexistence modes to be able to support Teams Upgrade, you will see them in here. This won't be the final list, because there's collab with meetings and collab without meetings and a few other different variants here that we will expose. This is the facility to be able to have that operate at a tenant level. And then, of course, if I want to go to a user, let's go back to Emily, and we want to make, Emily is already Teams only. Look at that. If we wanted to do this, particularly for a single user, then you would set this here. And that setting is either, hey, use the org-wide default, or have this user operate in one of these particular modes. So should you be interested in trying out Teams only, this is something that you could do for your own user or for your team when you get back into the office after Ignite. Cool. All right. We're going to see a little bit more of the portal here in a little bit. I wanted to talk through a couple more things. Reporting So there's two different kind of pieces of reporting that we're gonna talk through. The first one is historical reporting. So today we have the facility to derive user level reports. Those are coming from the Office 365 Admin Center today and the Adoption Content Pack. So that's what's available at the moment. What we're actively working on are to be able to have reporting on teams and channels. So who's using what teams, how much are they using them in terms of chats versus channel messages, what types of devices folks are taking advantage of, when are they logging in, when was their last usage time. Those are coming soon to the new Admin Center. I'm going to show you an early view of what that looks like in a second. And then, of course, PSTN usage reports. We have those available still in the legacy admin portal, the Skype for Business Admin Center, we derogatorily refer to as LAC. That as well will be coming into the new admin portal as well within the next little bit. So I think it's time. Yep, let's go check out what those look like. So because we're still working on this, I'm going to flop over to our different environment. Our different environment has a fancy new loading graphic I'm very excited about. Right? Yeah, it's pretty cool. I know. Yeah, it's fun to have GIFs or GIFs. That's the thing that I'll get ridiculed on for Twitter afterwards, I'm sure. So the reason I flipped over to this environment, we have the UX all stood up for this particular feature, but the back end is only available right now from our kind of testing environment. So 3 different reports that we have available here: user activity, device usage, and Teams usage. Ultimately, long term, you're going to see location be lit up, and you're going to see specific team level reports as well lit up. So let's see who's been using the product here in a second. Sweet. This is a bunch of folks from marketing cranking away on their channel messages on the 24th. And then so I get this nice graph, these nice kind of hover states, so I can kind of see what's going on. Got 1 call, 41 channel messages, no chat messages, and then I get a table here that as well have the ability to sort, that gives me kind of information about what's happened. And again, just like within the rest of the product, I don't have any roadblocks. I can go and I can click on Emily right from the report. Poof, I'm right into Emily's user object. So we always want to be able to have a really thoughtful path through the product. I can go in and check out device usage. That's not going to be a surprise. It's going to be all Windows boxes, of course. Teams usage, let's see what that looks like over the last couple days. Oh yeah, look at how pretty that is. And so you can tell this is very early with respect to what our reporting capability is, but you get a sense of what our goals are with this, right? We want it to be performant, we want it to be attractive, we want it to be very useful to be able to track what's going on within your environment, and then over time, we're going to be able to allow you to print, to be able to download the capability, to be able to download just the image. So you don't have to take a screenshot with OneNote because it's the only way to take screenshots, or have the ability to export that off to Excel as well. So yeah, reporting worked. Good stuff. All right, and I got to flip back and get off of my test environment and onto my proper environment, because I got 2 sets of features I want to talk about next. First is call analytics. Call analytics is something that we have had in a preview state in Skype for Business, and then as well with Microsoft Teams for quite a while now, and we've just been able to bring over all of that capability and integrate that into the new admin portal. And so fundamentally, what it's about, understanding media events, understanding what's going on when folks are making calls and they're doing meetings, both from a signaling perspective and from a media stack perspective. There's dozens and dozens of data points that we capture with every call. And so we package all of that up and we send that off to a data pipeline, and that processes all that through it, and we want it to be available not just for tenant admins, but also for help desk scenarios as well. It's our primary use case around call analytics. Somebody has a bad call, they call you up, and they go, hey, I just had a bad call, what the hell, what's going on? And then you have the opportunity to go into the product and go and see, oh, well, is this a network thing? Is this a device thing? Is there something going on with the service? And all of these core capabilities, again, came from the call analytics preview of the product. I would show it to you now, but I want to first talk about role-based admin control, because one of the kind of cool features of call analytics was that it was configurable to where if you had help desk users, they would get a different experience than a tenant admin would with respect to going to this product. And so the way that was implemented wasn't as kind of a proper Office 365 AAD admin role. It was implemented, kind of within the call analytics product itself. And so we wanted to step back from that and have this be kind of properly, thoughtfully implemented as a part of the standard Office 365 admin roles. And so this is fundamentally a function of Azure Active Directory. RBAC, again, operates across all the Office 365 workloads, right? So when you go and you check out the different admin roles, you see that kind of all up across Office 365. The ones for Teams are specific around Teams facility, right? So if you have somebody on your staff that they need to go and administer Teams and SharePoint, all good. You assign them the SharePoint role, you assign them the appropriate Teams role, and then they're good to go. And they have both sets of capabilities. We are really intent on balancing the ease of use, the consumability of this feature, along with the requirements of management. So you can imagine a fourth dimensional hypercube kind of set of user and capability and particular impact, right? And it's the union of all of those things that you would assign as a set of capabilities or a set of rights to a particular admin. That feels really difficult. And so we're starting with this. We'd love to be able to take feedback on that. And you can assign this to your users within the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. Having more specific scope, so thinking about things like the telephony admin is going to have scope over stuff in Germany because they're looking over the telephony environment of Germany versus the folks that are operating out of the US, and they're going to have just capabilities around the US. That is absolutely something that we're looking at, and that is on the backlog. In addition to being able to create custom roles and roll that yourself. But again, we want to make sure that the balance between utility and capability is correct in this. So here are the 4 new roles. Team Service Admin, you get to do everything. And coming in October, you'll also have the ability to manage and create Office 365 groups, because managing teams and managing groups kind of go hand in hand. The Teams Communications Admin manages calling and meetings functionality within Teams. We're slowly building out that facility within the admin center. We don't have a lot of that today. And then the 2 support roles, Team Support Engineer, Teams Communications Support Engineer, and Teams Communications Support Specialist. So the specialist gets basic tools, the support engineer gets some advanced tools. For your reference, I have a slide coming up. I don't expect you to look at this. You're welcome to take a picture. I'll leave it there. You can for a second, but it's an eye chart. It's not intended for you to take on immediately. It's intended for you to take home and have as a reference. And it's this. Well, you guys are going to want to know, and so here you go. So cross all the different paths. Again, you're welcome to take a picture, but it is in the deck, and you're welcome to the deck. All the different paths on the left. And then in addition to those 4 roles, what does Global Admin get? And then what does the Skype for Business Admin get? The Skype for Business Admin, of course, can still operate within the admin center, but they're not going to get the facility to do the stuff around Teams, right? They're not going to get the Teams management capabilities as well. So cool. Let's check this out. So I have a user. Oh, stay. I'm going to go over to my other one there, make sure that one's happy too. So when I log in, so I'm logged in now as Pilar Ackerman. Pilar is set up as an admin with the support engineer role. So we get the advanced tools within call analytics. With respect to the left nav, you see it's significantly different dashboard. But this is the entry point into the kind of base call analytics capability, where I've got a search facility there, and then I've got the ability to click into users. The devices piece, that's just a function of our OOPS when it comes to flighting. For normal tenants, you're not going to see the devices piece up there. So let's see, what's a good user for us to use? Does Paul have any calls? Let's see. So bringing up Paul's information. So you'll notice this is the same user detail page, but it doesn't have the information about the user, just has their call history information. So we've taken that same page and we've just pulled out those pieces that this role doesn't have access to. Same concept with respect to Teams Comm admin, same concept with respect to the Skype for Business admin. And so let's see if we can see some cool stuff. Oh, this is a great one. Excellent. So we've got this meeting. Meeting audio quality looked pretty good. There are 4 different participants. Down here, you can see all the different sessions that were recorded for this particular call. And so each one of the individual media streams is represented here, and then the specific session type. So what were the media types that were used for this particular call? But the view that I always really like is this one. So this actually shows over the time frame of the call who was engaged in the call, who was on the call, and then specifically, what media types were there. And so you can see that, this particular, I know, right? Yeah, that's cool. You can clap. It's all good. And so you can really see what's going on. And then if I just hover over that, I get this nice little pop-up that says, hey, what was going on with this particular session? Here are the modalities. Here's the duration. Here's the quality. Oh, yeah, let's go drop in. Let's check out some details. So when I go and I click into the details of this particular session, the difference between the 2 different kind of help desk roles really boil down to these 2 tabs of advanced and debug. That for the kind of tier 1 help desk role, you just have this overview, and then for the tier 2 help desk role, I can get into the gnarly weeds of what the media stack is throwing at me from a debug perspective. So if you're interested in wonderful, gory information, like whatever that is supposed to mean, you have it there available within the portal. As time goes on, one of the areas that we want to enhance within this view is to be able to make it really easy for folks to be able to dump out all the information that's contained in here, and be able to have that be available, like as an Excel document, or as something that you can then go and send around to colleagues as you need. But there's a bunch of information that's provided around this. So for example, at the high level, I see the connection was Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi signal strength was pretty decent. Let's look at my network. Looks like Mr. Skay had some pretty decent network times for this particular call. But you can tell how from a help desk perspective, having this data is incredibly valuable to be able to understand. Oh, what was going on with your device? Oh, dude. Oh, he was using an onboard. Oh, bad news. Most of the time, when you see that the audio capture device is something like this, generally means they're using their laptop. So yeah, audio is going to sound crappy if you're just using your laptop. Anyway, so that's what the RBAC capability looks like. That's what call analytics looks like when I'm logged in as one of these new help desk support users. In this case, logged into one that shows me all of the fun advanced tools to be able to get all sorts of cool data out of the tenant. All right, Teams lifecycle. This is, we're so excited about this. This is so cool. This is probably one of the areas you've seen. We have this on the mechanics shoot. We have this Lori's keynote. Have the ability to look at all of the teams that are going on within my tenant. Have the facility to be able to manage the users within those teams, be able to change the ownership, to be able to promote folks from member to owner of teams. This is one of the kind of big things that folks are getting stuck on. In a lot of cases, we're having customers say, oh, we had a team that had one owner and then that owner left and now the team is ownerless and we're kind of in this weird state. Now you can go in and get that addressed. I can go and play with and view and add and move and remove channels within the team. And then I've got a set of settings that manage the kind of operations of that team. So it's very similar to the settings that you would see within the rich client. We just bubble those up within the website as well. We are in a closed preview. We've got a bunch of great folks from our MVP team and our TAP and our early adopters who are looking at this. Unfortunately, that program is all full, but we do expect to be getting this out the door within a couple weeks here in October. So let's go check it out. Awesome. Oops, wrong one. Sorry, let's go to 8. Yeah, there we go. All right, and I'm on prod again. That's good. Let's go check out my teams. Oh, and I want to make sure that. So here's my tenant. Here are all the teams that I've got set up in my tenant for marketing and engineering. I see the channels that I've got configured. I see the number of team members, number of owners, and guests that are a part of that, and then whether or not this particular team is either public or private. If I wanted to, I could go right here and I could create a brand new team. I could, add owners right to this. I can change the privacy of that team directly from within this interface. If I go and I click into a particular team, I see the kind of cool, fun image that our marketing colleagues have included in for this. And this is actually the first instance of us getting pictures associated with the user objects. You may remember from the user detail page, we didn't have the user's photo in there. This is the first instance that we've been able to bring that in, and then we're going to revamp the user detail page to show photos as well. It's just it's a much more kind of human kind of view of the experience I really like. And then I get, of course, a view of the different channels that are set up. So I got a little bit of time. Let's exercise this a little bit. All right. So I've got Enterprise Connect 2019. I've got that as a team. I am a member of that team, but I am not an owner. And it just so happens that I've got teams up and running right here. And so you see that I've got the Enterprise Connect 2019 team, and I've got the general and the booth channels. So this is always a little dangerous. We don't know quite how fun this pipeline is going to be to me today, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. You are an awesome audience. So for Enterprise Connect 2019, we're going to talk about the booth. We should also talk about the keynote. Keynote planning goes here. So I've gone and I've created a new channel. The new channel was added, and then keynote, brand new. I know, it works. Of course it works. Like I said, there's still a little bit of pipeline stuff that we're looking through. There's a little bit of fit and finish we have to do on this feature. We're super proud of the facility that we were able to bring in here. And what's more, here are the different settings that are appropriate for my team. So whether or not I allow folks to, from within this team, editing messages, whether or not I'm going to allow, oh, don't touch that wire, whether I'm going to allow team members to be able to add new channels, to manage tabs, things like that. Again, now all of this, you as tenant admin, as root, you have the facility, or as team service admin, you have the ability to go and manage this and be able to configure it as you need. So it is good stuff. Alrighty, let's head back to, yeah. All right, last topic, and then I may have a couple of minutes for questions, we'll see. App policy. This is probably second to managing the life cycle of a team and being able to, as an admin, kind of plunk around and look at what's going on within the teams in my organization. It's probably the second most requested set of work that we've had. So effectively, app policy exists today within the Office 365 Admin Center for Teams, but again, it operates at a tenant level. And so you have the ability to, kind of turn on and turn off whether or not particular apps are going to operate within your tenant. But of course, we want to be able to have that now in a policy model as well. So we've broken that up into two different buckets. The first is a permissions policy. So whether or not your users who are assigned to this policy actually have the rights to be able to use this particular app or not, right? And we manage that across three different buckets: a Microsoft bucket, a third-party bucket, and then a kind of a line of business or side-loading bucket. And then, in addition to that, we want to be able to configure the manner in which the app is actually show up within the client. So is it nailed to that left rail within the team's experience? Is it visible? Is it allowed for somebody to change that as a result of being applied to this policy? All of those types of considerations are found underneath the app setup policy. This is active work that we're doing right now. We're going to be rolling this out, though, over stages starting in Q4, starting in our next quarter. So what you're going to see is elements of these two policies slowly showing up to the Modern Portal and becoming live and becoming wired up kind of end to end within the product. And so because this is active work, this is my most dangerous demo because I am playing with fire with my dev team who is currently probably updating this version of the website right now, admin dev. And so you see we've got the Teams app here. What I'm going to see for app permission policies is hopefully, there we go. I've got the same sort of model here where I show all my policies in a table. And then if I go into the block everything policy, you'll see those three separate sections for Microsoft apps, third-party apps, and tenant apps. And so if I didn't want to block everything, maybe I wanted to follow one of these different models, I could block everything for Microsoft. I could allow everything for Microsoft, or I could have the whitelist be a blacklist, essentially. I could say, allow only these handful of apps and stop everything else, or allow everything and stop these particular specific apps within this policy. So we've got some description there of the manner in which that should work. And so let's say I want to go and block some apps. Then I can go and I can open up. Let's add some Microsoft apps to block. Let's say I want to add OneNote to that. Now, clearly shown here that my blocked apps, so I'm blocking specific apps. My blocked apps is going to be OneNote. A terrible tragedy. I don't know why you would ever do that. Maybe I want to allow some specific third-party apps. Randomly touching a key there. Nothing against Trello, but Trello is going to be the app here to allow. And then you can see how I can kind of build this out. I can't save this because it'll blow up because we're still working on this feature. But that's kind of a sense of what this capability is going to look like. From app setup policy perspective, I can go and I can look at my marketing app setup policy. We've actually started to do the work in the product for this first instance, this first release, is just going to be around pinned and unpinned apps. So if I go and I want to add in what apps I want to have pinned, let's do OneNote again, and let's do Trello again. One of the cool things that we've got here is, obviously, if I'm pinning this within my app bar, then order matters. And so I've got the ability to go and rejiggle this as I need. And so when this policy is consumed, then these particular apps are going to be rendered within the client in this particular fashion. This is also the way that you'll be able to configure things like, I want to have meetings in for this particular group of users, or maybe I don't want to have the meetings capability available to this particular set of users. I can have that be configured. The entire view of what app policy looks like, this is from our design specification. So it would be a couple controls up at the top, and then you see the apps that end up being pre-installed, the apps that are pinned, and then any extensions to the messaging bar. Those are add-ons for the spot within Teams that you actually do your typing in. My personal favorite extension there is the Visual Studio add-on, now called Azure DevOps add-on, that allows me to take an epic or take a bug or whatever and just drop a card right into my chat. Well, now we'll be able to have the ability to control that on a per user basis, and I hope that Microsoft IT does not take that away from me, because it's critical. So cool. Just got a couple minutes left. You guys are all awesome for hanging out for the balance of this. But I definitely wanted to talk about what we're doing in the future. Lots more policies, no surprise. Things like voice policy makes sense for us to be able to add on here as well. Be able to have more settings, more kind of configurability, and more reporting. Certainly, the reporting stuff is going to be a set of work that we're going to be prosecuting pretty heavily. Bulk operations around policy assignments. So the idea there is I'll be able to grab a chunk of users and then go and say, hey, I want to have all of these users assigned a particular meeting policy or a particular messaging policy. That's active work that we've got ongoing, as is voice applications work. So if you're familiar with the Skype for Business Server 2019 roadmap, you know that the organizational auto attendant is going to be operating out of the cloud, and we're the UI for it. How cool. So we definitely want to make sure that that's going to be done at the same time as the availability of Skype for Business Server, in addition to the facility to do call queues as well. A bunch more features on the voice side. Including dial plans, so that we definitely want to be able to have a facility to be able to edit and create dial plans for online voice as well. Device management's coming in. There's a session all about device management that's happening tomorrow. Telephone number management is probably our biggest set of work, though. There is a tremendous amount of capability that we have in the legacy portal around assignment, around acquisition of new phone numbers from Microsoft, and around porting of those phone numbers from your existing carrier into Microsoft. And so we want to be able to support all those different scenarios within the admin portal. Insights around call quality. This is kind of the evolution of the call quality dashboard. This is going to be fantastic for us to be able to understand, hey, you've got a lot of kind of gunky wireless. Perhaps that's why your calling is poor. And then a bunch more work on the infrastructure side too. More widgets for the front page, the ability for folks to be able to give us feedback directly from within the portal. And I'm actually really interested in doing some fun experimentation on the UI side as well, to be able to get more kind of data and heuristics around folks and how they consume the product. Unfortunately, I don't have time to demo the North Star at this point, because there is 53 seconds left at this point. But I will throw up this resource cheat sheet, because there's just a ton of great information around Teams that is here at Ignite. And I hope that you have had an awesome show. shockingly enough, there is still one more day and a bunch of my colleagues have sessions. So if you found this interesting and you want to know more about having awesome administration in Microsoft Teams, don't hesitate to check out those sessions as well. And until I am kicked off this stage, I would love to take questions, but I just ask that you use the microphones because otherwise it would be impossible to hear you. Thank you guys so much. And I hope you all come out to the party because it's going to be a good time tonight. Thanks for hanging. Oh, there is a question. Yay.
Hey, yes, one quick question. Yes, we can export the call analytics to Excel. Is it currently, or will it in the near future be available to Power BI?
Which would you prefer?
Power BI.
Thank you for the feedback. We'll take that. We'll take that. We've got the componentry as part of the reporting work to be able to do Excel. We definitely have Power BI on our backlog, but right now that is a secondary priority. Okay. We've really focused on the Excel piece first. Okay. Power BI is definitely something we're looking at.
Cool, thanks.
Cool. I'm going to switch back and forth to make it fair for people in different locations. Yeah.
Can I ask about the policies? They're a great step forward, but one of the things that I think a lot of people have been looking for a while is a policy settings and teams that differentiate between whether you're communicating with a federated user or whether you're communicating with a user on the same tenant. And the specific use cases surrounding transfer of files, screen recording in meetings, and other things that you might not want a federated user to see that, but an internal user, you want them to see that.
So would the request, would the policy control be to alert your user to the fact that there are guests or that there are federated users, or would it be to block that content from egressing through your boundary?
The compliance guys would like to block it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
it's something that was in Skype for Business, and Skype for Business Online was starting to get that functionality, and because of the transition, it kind of got dropped. And it's the evolution of those policies into more granular settings would be great. I appreciate that's going to take time, but it's something that really needs to happen. Because at the moment, a lot of the compliance departments in the UK in regulated industries are turning around and saying, no Teams, ever, because you can't block these settings.
My colleague looks after a lot of the deep compliance scenarios, and I'm happy to go and follow up with him on that and see where that is in the roadmap. But appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
What about deleting teams, cleaning up? I don't think you showed anything about that.
You're right, I didn't. I want to say, no, we don't have delete in there yet, but delete and archive are two of the kind of verbs that we think about for managing teams. And so when you guys seeing this yet? Okay, cool. So I've got this highlighted, right? So the edit opens up, but normally when we highlight or own a table, I get the verbs up at the top for the different capabilities I have for the item within that table. Generally, I don't think of delete more. I think of archive, just because delete feels like a pretty dramatic step considering all of the goodness that is in that particular data structure. And I would hate for that to be accidentally happened and then folks panically calling our support. But that is definitely, archiving is definitely one of the things we're looking at for the successive iteration of the Teams lifecycle stuff. We definitely wanted to get this out here so we know that it's thin functionally in terms of the kind of all the richness that we want to do. We wanted to get it out there and we wanted to get feedback on it. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Not a question, but a comment.
Oh, sorry, all the way over there. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I totally didn't see you guys. Thank you.
Sorry, your OneNote screen capture thing, snip and sketch in 1809.
Oh, all right. We can talk about this at the party.
Yeah, you're sorry.
Awesome.
You're done with the other one.
Hi. Yeah, so for creation of teams, I was wondering if there's a way to limit the way teams are being created, as in like, I don't want to come across like the creation of a team and then someone creates the same team without knowing that team exists. Is that a feature that's coming out?
Fundamentally controlled at the Office 365 groups level, in addition to being able to control the naming convention for teams as well. One perhaps wouldn't want to have an untoward name for their team to be created by an employee, and so there's also kind of policy at the Office 365 group level of controlling that.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Absolutely. Empty, back
I have
there.
one. Yeah. Do you have any plan to integrate CQD into that admin portal? Because they just announced that they're going to bring back PII data so that we can drill back down to the user level.
Definitely want to bring, oh man, let's see if I can pop that in. Yeah, no, that is absolutely part and parcel for what we want to do. This is our 50,000 foot level marketing slide, right? And the CQD stuff is absolutely one of the kind of key sets of capability that we want to integrate into the admin experience. There should be only incredibly good reasons to make admins go off to use a separate tool, because one, it's super annoying to go to a separate tool, and two, I think there's a lot more power to have it all integrated together. As you saw, when I can go between call analytics and a user page and hit policy, and we want to have that kind of 360-degree view. And I can completely imagine going from call analytics, hey, what's going on with this particular call? Let me go and look at this location, and then that pops me into CQD, and then I look at kind of aggregate stats across that location, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we have to do today, which is hard.
Excellent. I want to fix that for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out. We good? Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's just lights. It's hard.
Are there any plans to be able to control which teams are auto-followed?
Any plans to control which teams are auto-followed?
By either groups or users themselves?
That one I'm not familiar with. Go ahead. Either drop me a mail. Oh, the answer is it's on the backlog. And that normally, sometimes you may hear folks say, oh, yeah, it's on the backlog, and that means that they're just kind of putting it there to die. No, that is actually something when we say it's on the backlog, we actually go and prosecute and work on it. So yes, that is something that we're looking at. The question really then becomes kind of, does that fall into our next set of work around Teams Lifecycle or a subsequent set of work around the Teams Lifecycle capability?
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is just because I want to be able to make sure that users can open files directly from their Office suite. And when you follow them, it's perfectly nice available there. But if it's not followed, you're not able to open files in a nice way. But
Got it. Cool. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. It's good seeing you.